Welcome to Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman, a podcast celebrating unexpected choices, honest conversations, and the infinite possibilities of a happy, child-free life. I'm your host, Emily Paulsen. Each week, we'll meet inspiring guests, pushing boundaries, leading change, and redefining personal fulfillment. This is not about comparison, it's about possibility. Whether you're child-free by choice, circumstance, still deciding, or simply interested in fresh perspectives for limitless living, I am so happy you're here. Let's get curious together. A huge goal of this show is celebrating unconventional choices. I didn't choose to be child-free out of rebellion. It's just the life that feels most authentic to me. And I know a lot of you listening have made unconventional choices on a variety of subjects because that's what feels authentic to you. We live in an era when the idea of personal fulfillment is broadening a little bit, but that doesn't mean the world always understands or accepts what we choose to do. Today's guest, 82 years young, best-selling author Marcia Drut-Davis, is an icon in the way of living with authenticity. She's a pioneer in the child-free movement, and when she spoke publicly about not wanting children in the 1970s, she didn't just face uncomfortable conversations. She lost a job she loved as a teacher and kicked off a flurry of unwanted questions. But she also ignited a deep commitment to speaking up and supporting others. Marcia's story is not just about the past. This is about the future, showing the world that living a life outside traditional expectations can be full of meaning and full of love. Welcome, Marcia.
Yay! You know what? I have to say one thing. It was on 60 Minutes, which was the national TV show on Mother's Day. And Mike Wallace ended with, "Pardon my perversion for airing this on Mother's Day. Good night, everyone." So I was perceived as perverse. I faced death threats. I faced picketing when I spoke with signs that said, "Godless bitch, go home." And yet my then husband faced nothing. That says a lot, doesn't it?
It says a lot. Take us back to this moment. Like, how did this happen? Getting on 60 Minutes, kind of making this proclamation. I don't know if it felt that way at the time, but set the stage. What was going on in the 1970s when you found yourself in this position to really be representing child-free women?
I read one book, The Baby Trap by Ellen Peck. This woman ignited in me an understanding that I was okay, that I didn't need therapy, and that another lifestyle could be calling me, which was perfectly fine. At that point, I felt such relief. There was nothing wrong with me. I was just a woman who made a choice for myself. And at that time, I was married, and my now ex-husband, because he fell in love with my girlfriend and married her. A whole other story. I handed him the book. He devoured it. And we both said, "Oh my gosh, we're not less, we're free. And we're going to stop all the nonsense of our family and friends saying, when you're going to settle down, what's wrong with you, you're missing out, blah, blah, blah." So at the end of the book, it says, "If you wish to meet other people like yourself, come to the New York City meeting of NON, N-O-N, the National Organization for Non-Parents." And I thought, ooh, I'm not going to meet a bunch of crazies. What am I talking about? I'm one of those crazies. So I went into Manhattan. I met the most beautiful people on this planet, including Ellen Peck. She and I forged a friendship that became so intense and wonderful for me that I helped her with the first national convention and met amazing people like Isaac Asimov and Hugh Downs at that time. These were big deals at that time. At that convention was Marion Golden, producer for 60 Minutes. She was filming the whole thing, and she found out that we were finally going to tell his parents, my parents, we don't want to have children. And she said, I'll never forget this, "Would you like to share that with us?" I said, "What do you mean with us?" "Well, we'd like to film that. Is that possible?" And I thought, well, I want to tell everybody. Why not? I had no idea what pronatalism was. I had no idea the effect it would have on my in-laws. I had no idea the effect it would have on me and my job. And foolishly, I said, sure, let me see if they can accept this. Called them up and said, "You know how I've been going to Manhattan a lot, and I'm kind of involved with going. Oh, by the way, I was living on Long Island, so it is back and forth on a bus, about an hour travel. And she said, "Yeah, I was always wondering what's going on." I said, "Well, would you mind if 60 Minutes followed us tonight so that we could tell you?" So there was a hush, and then she said, "Are you a nudie dancer?" I said, "No." "Are you into group sex?" "Group sex. That's it, right? Group sex." I said, "No." "Are you a drug addict, an alcoholic?" She went down a litany of the most deprived, horrible things. I said, "No." She said, "What could be so bad?" "Okay, come over, but I don't think I have enough rugelach." Now, rugelach is a Jewish pastry. To a Jewish mama, to hear that her beloved son is not going to give her the Messiah is hell. The effect it had on her, the tears, the anguish, which you do not see because it is edited. And I was the bitch. And my then husband was the poor soul who just looked back and forth, hardly saying a word. And that was my first experience with postnatalism. Profound influence on me and my life, leading me to you and to the people who need me. But I missed 15 years of a pension. I was blacklisted for 15 years. That's a lot of money lost.
That's a lot of money. Okay, so many things. It is amazing that you said yes to this, and I love, I mean, maybe a little bit of naivete, but also I think maybe that instinct within you, as you said, I want to share this with people. I want people to know about this. Why
Yeah,
not open up the
why not?
conversation? And you were in this group being supported by other people who were making the same life choice. So
Right.
I can see how you stepped into that, and then I can also see how the reaction was shocking. So tell me more, like this idea that it was all about you being the bitch, right? Kind of leading maybe your husband to this choice and he got nothing. Say more about this. What was the immediate effect and how did you feel when it went live?
Well, it was on Mother's Day.
Mm.
What you don't know is that after that particular videoing, whatever you call it, I slept overnight at my mother-in-law's house, and she had written a poem. And the last, I think I can remember it is, "To whom will you leave all your worldly goods? To the robbers, the junkies, or just the plain hoods? But this is how our story ends. Our children, though married, are really just friends." So we were perceived as a couple that were less than the normal couple who didn't really love, but were just friends going through a lifestyle. It was shocking. I mean, I like that word pronatalism, which when I learned it, I couldn't wait to say it because I sounded so smart. And people would say, "What? Who? What? Pronatal? What? What's that?" And I couldn't wait to tell them what it is. But I had never seen that. I had never known that. I have never experienced people who think that this choice is abnormal because people, you get married, and then in my day, and we're going back to the days of the dinosaur, I am 82, you get married and you have children. And then not to want that was unbelievable. So, of course, it set me on this path of trying to find out why. And also, why is it curious? Now, you mentioned the curious life. And in a way, I hate that because it's not curious at all. We have all lived the child-free lifestyle at one point or another. What's curious about it? We remember the time when we could sleep late on a Sunday, make love when we want to, or use the masturbator whenever we want to. I'm sorry if I said that as an offense, but it was just the joy
Go for it.
of the spontaneous life of doing what we want to do, going where we want to go, having dinner if we had the money to go out, going to a movie on the spur of the moment. That's the child-free lifestyle. Not curious. We've all done it. But curious says, in a way, what's wrong here? There's a lot of meanings to the word curious. I say what it should be more, what's the curious life of parenting? Because the truth is, nobody knows what that is until it's done. And sadly, for many, it's the wrong choice. And I've been the proponent for teaching what is parenting. Are you parent material? God forbid you say that, especially if you're religious, because it's just unheard of to ask that question. It should
Mm.
be asked. Our children deserve that. Our children deserve that. By the way, I did get back into teaching 15 years later when I remarried Jim and nominated by my peers to the Walt Disney American Teacher Award. So for 15 years, these kids didn't have me, the parents didn't have me, and I lost on a profession that I adored. To this day, 4 of my students are in my will. One of them has a little boy who calls me Marma. That's Marcia Grandma. So, and I'm not saying that because I haven't had kids and I don't have grandchildren. I mean, it's fine if you don't have somebody calling you mama or grandma. I'm not saying that in my life. And it shows you the loss of so many people, including myself, to what I love.
It's interesting the point you bring up about curious because you're right. I certainly don't want this to feel like the weird life of the child-free woman, but I do
Still
think
like
this,
you.
yeah,
Still like you, Emily. It's okay.
yeah. Thanks, Marcia. Thank goodness.
You're welcome.
I like you so much. But I think the idea of curiosity is important to me when it comes to each of us living with curiosity and really being willing to explore some of these other life choices. As you said, it can feel like such a well, to me it feels like a trap, but such a predetermined destination to think, okay, you grow up, you get a job, you find a partner, usually a straight partner in these scenarios, you have a baby, then maybe a second baby, throw a puppy in there in the mix somewhere, buy a house. Like it's just like we have so many examples of going down this trajectory. And just because it's been done a million times doesn't mean it's right for everybody. Obviously, by the way you've chosen to live your life and the way I'm choosing to live mine. And I think for those who are unsure, maybe they're starting to feel like, oh, I don't know if parenting is right for me. I don't know if this is something I want to do. But that feels scary because it's what they've seen modeled so much.
Yeah.
I think curiosity is sort of the first step to questioning what would it look like if I decided to be child free? What would people say about us? Am I going to be okay with that? How does it change my identity or what I expected my future to look like if I don't have kids that I'm spending my midlife with? So I think your work is so important in inspiring people to pause and have that question for themselves. Like, what is it about becoming a parent that feels compelling? Is it
Yeah.
something that is driven from inside, or is it just sort of the
Right.
societal message?
Yeah. I am always against the word instinctive. I think that's been thrown on us. It may be instinctive to nurture for some of us, but I think the most important nurture is to ourselves and to what we want on this planet. Now, I think it's good that people are questioning. In the past, we never questioned. This would never come up. It was like, of course you're going to have children. Of course it's going to be a lifetime of raising children and grandchildren. Now, people are getting smart, just like the child free have been, because they have questioned, is this lifestyle I want? And the way I tell people to find out is spend time. And I don't mean 2 hours babysitting an infant. Spend time in the lifestyle. If you're lucky and you're an aunt or an uncle, or you have a dear friend who trusts and respects you, take their child or children for a week. A week, not 2 hours. Spend the life in the lifestyle. A lot of it is jaw dropping when the reality hits of what it's like 24 hours a day to be the caretaker of humans. And I don't use the word baby anymore. I say, oh, you're having a human. And they look at me like, what? Well, a baby is the shortest time in the life of any human. And
Mhm.
people forget that little babies, who are sometimes very cute, begin to say no and start to walk around as a toddler and get into everything. And then as they raise, here's that teenage or preteen, God forbid, years. I mean, it's hell. We know because we were there. We were those hells to our parents.
So true.
And it never ends. It never ends. Do you think my mother didn't have a fit every time I had a divorce? Do not judge me. It was because, not for me, it was the situation in the first and second marriage that took me a brave moment to say this is not. But she was heartbroken for me and for herself, for all the things she had hoped for me. And thankfully, she met Jim before her death. And she went, "Phew, I can rest." Now, my mother was 75 when she died, and she only met Jim a few years before her death. So it's forever for those that love and care. It's forever. And of course, that's going to go to the old. Well, what are you going to do when you're old and alone, and there's nobody there for you? Well, my answer is visit some assisted living near you and ask the nurses when was the last time that person had a family member there, or who visited this person recently. Most often, you will hear my friend, my friend. And it isn't always because the kids are so awful. Many kids have predeceased their parents, and some of these children are living in another continent because of work or a partner in life that had to move. Some of them have their own health issues or their own children's issues. Some of them have money issues, and some of them are estranged. Too many. If you knew how many of my friends have gone through hell with the expectations not met and the hurt and the disappointment in their children and grandchildren. So, no, there's no guarantee that you will be alone. And in fact, right now is the chance and the time to stop that. Now you're going to ask me how. Okay, here's the answer. So smart. You get so smart as you get old. Develop meaningful friendships now. Now. And be sure to have younger friends because the older friends are going to die. And then who do you have? So my joy is in my 33-year-old Johanna, who I met at a meetup, my 55-year-old Anu, who I adore, who was a student in my class, and another person who's in her 40s. Because at 70 and 80, sadly, you lose those friends. I have an older friend too, Marcia, another Marcia, who I'm joyful and fearful that I'm going to lose her, or she could lose me. So that, and to be a friend, to really be a friend, you have to be that friend. Call them on their birthday. Call them when it's not their birthday. Call them just to say, hi, I love you. Send them a note. Meet them. Care about them. Ask what's happening in their life. Don't expect them to do it to you if you have not done it to them. So important.
So many wise words. I love what you said about expectations. And I do think there is a lot of rhetoric, expectations both ways from the perspective of the child and from the perspective of the parent. And it's hard to me. Like, I don't want to talk anybody into anything. And I'm not out here saying, oh, like you think it's going to be so great when you're older because you have kids and it could suck. They could not want to talk to you. They could move away. But that's the reality. And I think there's so much conversation in society around building this nuclear family unit, having a partner, having children, spending time together, having this kind of siloed existence, which there's so much value. Like, of course, we want quality time with the people we're closest to and the people we love the most. But then friendship gets left out of that equation. And I see friends who you enter a phase of life where they have young families and that just prioritizes all of their time. I mean, any waking minute that's not spent at work
Yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
go to their partner and the kids. And then those of us who were friends with them before, you want to be a good friend. And like, my message is like, I'll be waiting in the wings. Like, if you're ready to
Yeah.
come
And
back, it's hard.
you know what? This is going to blow you away. So my closest friends are parents. How did I remain close to them? I valued their lifestyle, and they valued mine. We were open to what we both needed and the boundaries of what we did not want. I was clear in saying to my friends, you are a parent. I respect that. To this day, they're all grown up. They all have kids of their own. But I've watched these little things grow into humans. And it's a gift to a lot of us to see that. But on the other hand, if you are not truthful about your wants and needs, about saying, listen, you've broken a date with me 5 times because somebody had a snot and somebody had a cold and the other one threw up and then you had to do this and go to the. There's understanding, of course, but there's a limit to how much you can take. And that when you're with them, you need to talk about things other than children. You have nothing to give them. All you can do is go, that's nice. Oh, that's bad. Oh, But what can you say? You're not raising these humans. So you need to say, let's talk about other things. Believe me, they want to talk about other things too. They talk about the kids with their fellow parents. They want to talk about juicy stuff and about this one or that one, even though I know it's gossip and it's terrible, sometimes fun. They want to talk about sex. They want to talk about what they're doing and what they're thinking and what they're hurting. And they need that because their life is surrounded by kids. So it's up to us to be responsible enough to say, I love you. I love your children. This is what we need. This is what I need. What do you need? And then you have to be understanding of where they're coming from. That's what worked for me. And my closest friend who was in the first documentary I'm in was filmed just about that. How we
Really?
remained connected. Yeah. To Kid or Not to Kid by Maxine Trump. It was such a delight to be able to say, this is my best friend Jane. We love each other. And it's been 50 years of friendship. More than 50. We had a golden anniversary towards Port Past. What I can say about husbands.
And there's a lot of truth in that too, right? Romance is
Right.
great, but friendship can last forever, can last a lifetime.
Right. And that's true in marriage too. Because all that lust and all that excitement wanes as you get older. And if you don't have not just that lover, but that friend, you're in trouble. By the way, you mentioned something about the gays. They have written to me so much about the pressure to them that if they had that child, they're more accepted as a family. It makes them look,
Really?
yes, I think it's fascinating that their family and their straight friends, and it just looks like they're more normal, which sad to say that. Those that don't opt to either have a child through somebody giving them that child or adopting that child, it's less than those who have that.
Yeah, that benchmark is still there for all of us that puts you up on that level of accepted to make that
Right.
traditional choice.
Right.
I love that I almost feel like it's a not a call to arms, but I appreciate what you said about us as child-free people holding space in a way that respects both sides and all boundaries with our friends that have children. Because, yes, my first close friend who has children, when she told me she was pregnant, I did not react well. I was happy for her, but I burst into tears because I was so fearful that we would lose our closeness and lose our friendship. Not that I saw that only as her responsibility. I just thought things are going to change and you're not going to have time for me in the same way. And what if you think I can't relate to you? What if I can't relate to you? It was so scary to me. And now that child is older and they have a second child and we found a way to work through it. But much to her credit, I do feel that she's just as interested in my life.
It is a real friendship. It's authentic. It's real. It's heart connected. When you have a heart connected friendship, very little can get involved to stopping it because both respect each other. And you respect the fact that her life is quite different than your life, and
Mhm.
they're going to be, you have to fit in at this point. But those moments that you're alone are delicious
Mm,
for
so
her and for
delicious.
you. Delicious. So
So neat.
tell her that. Tell her that.
I
Tell
will.
her that.
I will. I'm going to call her after this recording, honestly, and say, I'm so glad that we've stayed connected and I'm committed to keeping that up because it's important for both sides.
I could cry because it just shows respect for lifestyles. What works for one doesn't work for the other. Many parents are happy. I want that. I'm not
Mhm.
against people having children, but I'm against people saying to me, I'm less than those who have children because that's the thinking. We're missing out. Yeah, we are. Those moments, those precious moments. I wrote that in my first book. I don't know if you even know what Kodak is, but in my day it was film. So
Yeah.
there was that Kodak moment. So that Kodak moment, which we miss, of maybe holding that baby to our breast, getting the adoration of everybody once we have now the first walk, the first talk, the first I love you. Delicious, lovely. And then I have to say, well, they're also missing the first time I saw the acacia tree in Africa, and the giraffes walking by as the sun went down. And they're also missing those moments where I decided, spur of the moment, I want to go out with my husband for dinner, and I don't have to worry about grandchildren or when I was younger,
Mhm.
children. The spontaneity that we can have if we're healthy. Look, many child-free people are not healthy. Many are not indiscriminately wealthy. That's the other thing that really gets me. Oh, you child-free people, you have all that money. Hell no. Hell
Right.
no. I mean, many struggle. I lost 15 years of the pension. You think I'm indiscriminately wealthy? And oh, the other thing is, oh, you're making all that money from writing those books and being in those two documentaries and speaking. I don't get a dime for speaking. I don't want a dime for speaking. As far as books, if I had written The Confessions of a Child Free Aging Sex Maniac, yeah, I'd go running to the bank. But
Right.
I mean, who am I? I'm not Chelsea Handler, who was on The
Hmm.
View yesterday. I'm Marcia. I mean, people think I'm this diva and that gets me all the time because I love it. Well, I'm not. I made $740 selling one book last year. $740. But it wasn't the money. It was I touched the lives of those people who read my book. What?
Hmm.
What? It was Ellen Peck. By the way, we lost Ellen Peck in her 50s to cancer. Sad. So
So sad.
Ellen Peck, what she taught me about one book, and it doesn't have to be my book, The Baby Matrix by Laura Carroll, who talks about pronatalism. Amazing insight into things you never think of that kind of
Mhm.
force you to feel that you're less than. There is an incredible a novel that I just devoured by Jennifer Flint, Wild Eggs. She goes through everything we have ever gone through in a novel.
That's interesting.
So it isn't just my book. When I first started this, it was one book, The Baby Trap. Now, hundreds of books. Reading gives you more insight than anything, or spend time with people over quality time. That's why I started the cruises. That's another thing people said. She's doing cruises to make money. I mean, you know, the amount of work that I put in at that time. I handed my baton over to the last one. I had 47 people that almost killed me. It was so much work because I became a travel advisor, thinking this is a good idea to have people together over 7 days, and faulted for that. She's making money again. Please.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
hysterical. I know.
It is hysterical. Yeah, the assumptions people make about our lives that we just must have endless free time, endless cash, endless whatever because we don't have kids are sometimes comical. But sharing the reality of it, especially with those who want to connect or feel child free, is so important. And I love the books
It
that
is.
you referenced. I'm taking notes literally, but tell me more. Why is it important for you to continue to be vocal about this, whether it is through organizing a trip or the books you've written and being in documentaries? I think often when we make an unconventional choice, the tendency is to hide that and talk about it less because we have fears of how it will be perceived. Why is it so important to you the opposite way?
You know, after I retired from teaching, which was my passion, I said, now what do I do?
Mhm.
I don't want to watch Let's Make a Deal. Not to say that Let's Make a Deal is a bad show. I don't want to sit here. Knitting was bad. The math part of it was like, couldn't do it. Well, what do I do? You know, like, then
Mhm.
I thought to myself, the most important thing to my life was when I was on 60 Minutes and what happened to me. And the realization that more people were still facing such rebuke from family and friends and work. The military, too. If you read my second book, whoa, there's a chapter on the military that'll blow your mind. I became aware more and more that there was a need to hear that my life is delicious and that I don't have one regret. I'm not looking back and going, oh my God, I
Mhm.
should have. If only I could have. No, if anything, it's made me even more aware. And being so outspoken, I have 22,300 people following me on Instagram, 7,000 something or other on Facebook. That says something. So
Yes.
if you don't have any passion, whatever it is, whether it's going to the gym or writing a book, God forbid, you have no idea how difficult that is, or being involved with a organization or a church that you love, you need something that makes you say in the morning, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to reach another person. Emily, today I'm going to reach Emily. Yay! It's like it gives you a meaning to get out of that bed and not watch TV all day, but to live. And at 82, I need to live. It's the sands of time are going, and it's like, damn those sands of time. It's like,
Yeah.
ah, it's like, no. So I know in you, you will carry on this torch. My heart is that you will continue after I'm gone and you will remember these words because sad to say, it's still needed. I thought 50 years later, yeah, it's still needed. We're still irresponsible, hedonistic, unloving, uncaring, doomed to regret, doomed to wish we had.
Hmm.
Sad. Even now, when you look at this planet and you look at what's going on and the wars and the hate and the environment, what's happening with the
Hmm.
storms and the climate, uh,
Overwhelming.
I feel for the kids I know, for those little kids growing up. I feel for their parents and what's going to happen. Yeah, I'll never say don't have children if that's what you want. That's your passion. Just know what it is you're getting into because you don't know. You know the fluff. You know the movie. You know the fun, which there is, but you don't know the real work of raising a human. A lot of it happened after my sister was born. I was 15. My mom remarried and at 38 had a second child, a little girl. And whoa, my eyes became wider every day when I saw
Hmm.
reality of what it's like to raise a human. Whoa, eye opening. And to raise a teenager at the same time. Oh my God. Well, I think I knew when my mother said to me, and I was 8 years old, and I said, Mommy, where do babies come from? And she said, well, the father plants a seed in through the vagina. And my mother was very graphic. And then that seed grows into a baby. And then it's pushed out through the vagina. I said, wait, what?
Yeah. You lost me.
Wait, what? I think it's eight. I said, I'm not sure that's for me. And tocophobia is not to be diminished. It's real. There
What
are
is
many
that?
women. Tocophobia is the fear of birth, the fear of
Okay.
pregnancy. It's real. And there are many people who don't want to have children because they don't want to experience birth. And they
Hmm.
fear it, and there's a reason to fear it. I know of two people that I know who died during birth.
Mm,
Two.
I'm sorry.
One of which was my ex sister-in-law, whose husband was a gynecologist right by her side during the third birth. What could happen? Yeah. So there is a reason to fear it and not to be fearing that fear or feeling that I'm embarrassed to say I don't want to go through birth. Read some of the stories of what some of the births have been for many people who suffer years later from hemorrhoids, from incontinence, from all sorts of problems. Many people don't have that, and there are many births that are beautiful. I'm not saying it's all awful, but it is for many terrible. But you don't hear that as much. Now you do. You're beginning to hear more and more people saying, I wish I knew.
I love the honesty. I think we need it. And I think it's led by women because I get the sense, and I want to know what you think about this. I feel like across multiple topics from career to relationships, sex lives, wellness, aging, like there's so many things where women are like, okay, we've had the polite little summary of these things. Can I talk to
Right.
somebody about the real stuff? Like, what is going on with me? What I'm terrified about? What I'm up at night
Yeah.
thinking about, what I'm really excited about. And I'm worried it's weird that I'm excited about it. There's so much rawness to our emotion. And I feel like we start with our friends, but now in the culture, whether it's menopause or so many different topics, I feel like we're starting to open the conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is one of those topics too.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as menopause is concerned, many people say, well, weren't you just relieved when you knew you couldn't have a child? You know what? I went through a very interesting time because the choice was taken away. Even though I was 52, no longer did I have the choice. It was done, finished. And there was a pause in my life, not so much that I didn't have children, but the time of my life has now changed to a certain reality that I am aging, my eggs are
Mhm.
done, and now I have to face the new normal. And I wrote about that. It was interesting. By the way, talk about writing about things. There are people on Amazon. There's one person in particular who has hated me. I don't know where she is or he or what it is, but they took out of context from my book the moment that I wrote, and there were times I did remember that I wanted to have a child. But the next part of it was then I thought about what happened after and what happened before.
Mhm.
That was eliminated. So it did make me look like I was a phony.
Mm.
Right there
That's
on
so
Amazon.
unfair. Ugh,
I know.
I'm sorry. Yeah. People just do the craziest things on the internet and kind of hiding behind their screens, and we have to
Yeah.
just, it's very hard to have
Yeah.
a thick
You know you're
skin
going to be
to it.
vulnerable when you're outspoken and you're in podcasts and you're in documentaries and you have books. Yeah, and it's okay. It's worth it. If you and I reach one person, glorious.
I hate that that person took your comments out of context. But from my perspective, like there have certainly been moments, especially when I was much younger. I'm 38 now, but when I was younger, where I was thinking, am I gonna miss this? Like, especially for me, the idea of being pregnant was something that I wanted. Like, it was harder for me to give up the idea of being pregnant. I think I just always knew I didn't want to be a parent. Like what you talked about with the long-term reality that once you're a parent for the rest of your life, not the rest of the child's life, for the rest of your life. And I was never, that just wasn't right for me. It felt so sure that that wasn't my path. That there was something about being pregnant, like the physical challenge of it. I just thought this is an experience that women have that I'm just not going to have. I think I could have it, but I'm just opting not to. And of course, to me, that would be like having a baby because I wanted to be pregnant would be like getting married because you want to have a wedding. Like, I will deal with other physical.
Exactly. Exactly.
There is no question. No question that I was going to do it for that reason. But I've had some great conversations with girlfriends now who have decided to be child free or are on the fence about being child free. And this idea that there will be some grief either way. Not that that means regret, but as you said, those Kodak moments, like you can't have it both ways. You can't live your whole life, adult life as a parent and live your whole life as a non-parent. We pick a path and there's pros and cons to both. I think that's important to share.
I do. And let's look at that word pregnant, okay? Yes, it had been so made to be seen as the most glorious moment of a woman's life. Just turn on any Instagram and you'll see bellies all over the place.
Mhm.
Movies, art, the Madonna, songs. I don't. You were probably too young, but you're having my baby. What a wonderful way to say I love you. That was Paul Anka once. Oh my God, I hated that song. A lot of songs. Molly and Me and Baby Makes Three. That's an old song. I mean, think about some of the songs, some of the art, some of the music, some of the pictures of those bellies and how they glow. But nothing is mentioned about the hemorrhoids. Nothing is mentioned about the pain afterwards, about those who have had C-sections, how they're doubled over or have to wear pads for a long time because of leakage. That
Mhm.
part is not mentioned. It's the glorious part of it. And I'm sure some of that is lovely. I don't want any of it. I never wanted any of it. And I don't feel I missed anything because my pregnancy is in the flowers that I put down in the ground. A little tiny kit of an avocado that grew into the most magnificent tree. It took 15 years to give me my babies. Those are my
Mm.
avocados. Pregnancy can be in what's in you giving forth in this podcast. That's a birth of a kind that's reaching a lot of people and yourself because you feel good doing it. So
Mm.
that word pregnant doesn't have to mean just bearing a human because once that human is born, there's no more pregnancy. There's the reality of parenting. Start reading more about what people have experienced during the birth process. I was once the keynote at the Not Mom Summit and I shared it with Jody Day. She is the guru of the childlessness people.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they put me up first. So I'm standing on a microphone in front of a sea of faces looking at me. Some of them child free, some of them less. Do you know what that's like? I was walking on eggshells. I
Mm.
knew how much the childless wanted to have children. They should have put her up first. They put me up first. And I was really careful. Oh my goodness, was I careful in what I said. But the next day, half the people were gone. And I said to Jody, what happened? And she said, in the childless state, you go through the stages of grief: shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, acceptance. These people have not reached acceptance.
Mm.
And you stirred in them a fear that maybe freedom is, child freeness is good. And they didn't want that. And they weren't ready for it. So I was crying. I felt so terrible that I had affected these people and I only wanted to help them.
Right.
But she said it's okay. So we have to remember that there is grief in being less for those that really want it.
Yes.
Feel that they're less of a woman and they're less of a person and their lives are less. And we only try to say there's something different than less to be free. One of my favorite followers is a couple. They were on one of my cruises and spoke. They were less and decided to opt to be free. And now they have a van. They call it Freda, Freeda. And they travel all over on their own and they help others. And we are child free.
Mm. That is such a powerful story. It's powerful to me. I mean, when I started this show, I was really worried that I was going to hurt feelings. And I've already in my life, just through casual conversations on this topic, I've offended people before, not intentionally. I've apologized for things. And I learned a lot along the way just in bringing this up and saying it doesn't have to be that way. All of these things. I've learned a lot, but I definitely had a fear that just by this existing, it would somehow be offensive, and then quickly had to realize like that is just not my space. I cannot relate. I
Right.
can have sympathy and attempt to have empathy for those that
Sure.
have those feelings, but there are others out there who can relate to that experience of desperately wanting that life. And I want there to be containers and spaces and communities and podcasts and gatherings for those people because any type of grief or loss, even if it's just the loss of
Sure.
an idea that you thought would
Sure.
be yours, that's huge. And it takes time to process and work through that. So I want that to exist, but I had to separate myself to say that's not what this show is. This is shining a light on how happy child-free life can be and also how normal. We're not just rich people with tons of time and resources. It's just a parallel life path, right? It's just a parallel life path and it can be fun and curious as in learning new things and exploring stuff that's interesting in the world today and meeting amazing women like you. So it took me I truly, truly, Marcia. And it took
Oh,
me a year from having the idea to actually having the courage to record an episode because I was stuck in that fear of hurting someone's feelings.
you birthed a podcast that can affect lives, and that's a gift to you and to others. It's a different kind of birth, but it's just as beautiful and special and important. Birthing, there's so many ways to birth. Doesn't have
Mm,
to be just children.
thank you. Thank you for that reflection to me. I can't tell you what it means. I could cry. And thank you to everyone
That's good.
listening.
That's good. Crying is good. Okay.
Crying is good.
And you know what? The men don't go through this. To a man, and there are many men that also do not want to have children. Yay. But so many men, especially in other countries, are so embedded with the idea of bringing another male child to continue that legacy. In fact, some women can be thrown out or even hurt or replaced by another wife, and it's considered perfectly normal. And that still exists on this planet.
It's so sad to see human worth like that. What do you see as the future for this? Like, going back to 60 Minutes, there's still these stereotypes or these unfair questions or insensitive things or whatever that we have to overcome. But, from that 60 Minutes moment back then all the way to now, and then looking forward, what do you see as the future of kind of our embracing or not embracing of the child-free life, and even just personal fulfillment in general, speaking on all unconventional choices? Where do you think we're headed?
I think there's still a need for your podcast. There's still a need for me, thank goodness.
Yes.
There's still a need for women to be honest about both lifestyles. There has definitely been a slight shift. 50 years. And I still have a neighbor who screams, child hater, to me. 50 years.
Really?
Oh, I can't make that shit up.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's just so pathetically sad that people see me as a child hater. When some of us are the most devoted doctors to children, teachers to children, aunties to children, uncles to children, neighbors that care about children when mothers can or fathers are not home on time. But the idea of us being haters or there's something wrong with us still exists. Is it better? Yes. Do we have a heck of a lot more to do? Absolutely. Even now, we still have a long way to go. So your podcast is needed.
And you're needed, everything you're doing.
We're still needed, and we still need honesty on both sides. Sure, there are moments that we have questions because of prenatalism, because of our own doubt. Since we haven't experienced growing older yet, we wonder. And I hope, as an 82-year-old person, I can tell you I have no regrets, none whatsoever.
Marcia, I think even that is everything you shared today feels so supportive to me. And I love your energy and your warmth. I could talk to you forever. But I think that just hearing that confirmation about regret is so powerful because we can't know how we'll feel when we're 80, 90, 100, when we're 30, 40, 50. So there is always this piece of unknown, which is part of what makes life amazing, that we don't know what's coming and it is unpredictable.
Right.
But that's
Right.
also that little gap where fear can creep in.
Yeah, I think it's normal. It's just normal human reactions to life. But 82, look what I'm facing. It's a whole new normal for me to worry, am I going to now have something where I can't speak or I can't do what I want to do or if I'm going to be, and I faced cancer once. Is it going to come back?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And you talk about rejection. That was a moment where my body rejected me. And that was a moment where I said, ooh, because I was in chemo and really not feeling good. And I saw people around me with lots of people, younger people. I said, oh my God, their children are there to help them. I have my husband. And then I would ask, who's that? And that's my neighbor. Who's that? Oh, that's somebody that I work with. And I became aware that even though my branch had fallen on the family tree, I had touched the lives of other people, and their branches are important to me. So it wasn't that rejection of my body or the rejection that my life was now over with no legacy. You're my legacy. My book is my legacy. There's more to legacy than begetting a human. How you touch people, how you touch the planet. It's my avocado tree.
Truly, seriously, all of that, everything that you touch, you have an influence on the world around you, the natural world and the human world. And that's such an important reminder.
And you don't have to leave a legacy. The legacy could just be to yourself that you live the life that you love. Period.
Beautiful. For everybody listening who is now as obsessed with you as I am and thinking, I want to be like her. I want to feel like that when I'm 82. I want to live a life that's right for me and a life that I love. I know this is a big question, but what would you leave us sort of as a closing tip for those people? How can we change our mindset, or what's something that we can embrace so that we can live that life with authenticity?
Simple. You are not selfish. You have self care. And that is more than anything on this planet that's important in life. The own understanding of yourself, what you want, and how you want to live your life. Self care.
Perfect. I love it, Marcia. For everybody who wants to learn more from you and read your books and see your documentary, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
On Instagram, it's childfree_guru. On Facebook, it's Confessions of Child-Free People. The two documentaries, the first one is To Kid or Not to Kid by Maxime Trump, No Relationship. And the second one is My So-Called Selfish Life by Teresa Schechter. If you go to those sites, they probably have a way of linking or finding out how you can rent it. These two women are incredible movie makers, so I applaud them. My books are Confessions of a Child-Free Woman on Amazon. And look at that first review. And my second book is What? You Don't Want Children? And I talk about rejection in the child-free lifestyle. And it's not the money, it's touching a heart.
Well, now we know what we're reading and what we're watching. Thank you so much for coming
My
here.
pleasure. You make me feel like 5'4" when I'm 4'11" and shrinking. Thank you.
My honor. Thank you for listening to Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman. I did not really get this until I became a podcast host, but if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and consider taking 2 minutes to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Turns out, it really does make a difference. You can become a Curious Life insider at CuriousLifeOfAChildFreeWoman.com. Follow us on Instagram at Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman, and feel free to share this episode with a curious friend. Friendship is everything to me, so every recommendation really means the world. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and know that you'll never walk the child-free journey alone.